Hello everybody, my name is Zoltan. Welcome back to my channel. Today I would like to show you how I edited one of my latest shots. I'll just call the mirror shot. Let's get started. So we are in Lightroom now. I just opened the image which we are going to edit today. This is a file coming directly from the camera in RAW format. I always edit in RAW format because this is the maximum set of information the camera is capable of providing me. So the first thing I usually do is I go down to the lens correction and I'm searching for my lens which I use. So I have a Samyang 35mm and it makes me automatically the correction of some distortions and things like this. The second thing I usually do is I'm cropping off the unnecessary parts. I'm trying to find a frame which fits best. Yeah, I think this is going to be okay. Okay, the next thing is trying to set the warmth of the image. So if I go with this temperature slider to the direction of the yellow color, it's getting warm, and if I go to the direction of blue, it's getting colder. So I will go down just slightly around this value, and I'm going up a little bit with the tint in direction of pink color. Not much, just a little bit. Okay. The next thing I do is I usually go down with the highlights and I go up with the shadows. And as each of my moody images are kinda underexposed, in this case I go as well a little bit down with the exposure. This looks now terrible, but I will compensate this with the whites. So I go up around this percentage. And as you can see here, you can recognize some unwanted color fringes, which we soon can get rid of if we go back to our lens correction and go manually to the manual tab, and here we can select between purple and green fringes, and I think with an amount of around 6 or 8 they're gonna disappear. So it's because of the lens. I'm shooting with practically almost wide open shutter, and this especially on these water droplets, this unnecessary or unwanted phenomena shows up. So with this little tool we can easily correct this. Okay, so the next thing I usually do is trying to apply here the vibrance and the saturation of the image. So I would like this image to be a little bit more vivid, although not so colorful, because moody images are a little bit undersaturated. So I go a little bit down, and I play as well with the clarity. This I usually use this slider pretty much carefully, so you can go up, but in this special case I go a little bit down. I want the tones and the details to be a little bit less sharp, so I go down a little bit with the clarity. Okay, and as a next step, so I go up a little bit with the blacks, because I want as well the small faint details coming out again. Yeah, okay. The next thing I will do is I will a little bit slightly go up with the lights, just to get these nice bokeh bubbles showing up nicely, and I go up a little bit with the highlights. So here this affects this area of the image, and I go as well up a little bit with the darks, just to get all the faint details a little bit going out or popping out a little bit. Yeah, and with the shadows I go just a little bit down. Okay, the next thing is and I think this is the most important part maybe of this tutorial, is that I'm applying the luminance, saturation and hue settings on the different channels, and I as well often use the split toning. So what does it mean exactly? So depending on the image, we can play a little bit with the colors. As you can see here, these red bubbles here, the red bokeh, they are a little bit, yeah, let's say too much for me. So I would like to get a little bit down with the reds. But I want, in the meantime, the orange part to pop a little bit more. So I want to go with this slider slightly up, and maybe with this, the other part of the orange, just to go a little bit down. Yeah, this 100% depends on your taste. So it's there's no such a rule which you can follow how to apply this or how not to apply this. This is absolutely depending on your taste, and you can play with the sliders, and you can yeah, you can figure out which settings are fitting the best. So in case of saturation, I will desaturate a little bit the orange part and go with the yellow a little bit up, and as well go a little bit with the red up. Okay, and maybe the red is too much. Yeah, oh, that's going to be okay. And in the hue slider here, we can as well play how the different channels behave, how much, for example, the orange turns into a red or into a more yellowish color. So I think I will stick somehow in between. Yeah, I think this is going to be okay like this. I will go down a little bit, and with this I will go up a little bit. Okay, so this is almost the result I wanted. And here the next trick is I often use the split toning. So the split toning sliders help us to control independently the highlights and the shadows on the image. So whenever you go somewhere in this direction of blue, then you can see that the highlights will get more into the natural color of light. But in this case, I want this to be a little bit in the red area. So I go down and I will try to figure out which is the best in terms of feeling. Okay, so I think with the highlights, I think this is pretty much okay like this. And with the shadows, if we pump the shadows, here we can change the complete toning of the shadows. So if this is completely desaturated, this is practically the original colors. And if you try to apply this slider up to the 100%, you can practically change the complete color behavior of the shadows. And I think in such a case, I will go down a little bit to this greenish area, so around this 160, 170 area. And this is too green to my taste at the moment, so I think I will go down a little bit, just around 20 or 30. Yeah, so we are pretty much close to the result. As you can see here, there are some details, and which I may not want to have them like this. So the next thing we will do is I go down to the effects and apply some vignetting, which will hide somehow the details on the perimeter of this image. So I will go down, and as well, helps us a little bit focusing at the middle part of the image. So I go down even maybe more aggressively. I don't want this bokeh part to be so much damaged, but it can be okay like this. And we have as well here a slider which I often use, and this is the dehaze. So this is controlling exactly how the blacks behaving on your picture. So you can burn the black. So if your image is highly dark, You can play with the blacks going up a little bit, but as you can see, this is pretty much ugly like this. So we are not going to the minus direction, but we are going rather into the positive direction, but not so aggressively, because this as well, it's like a contrast slider, so you can apply this easily all together with the contrast slider, so it has a little bit of similar effect. So I just can recommend that you use both of these sliders and adjust somehow slightly the details in the background. Okay, one last thing before we finish the image, and this is the middle part of the mirror, which I would like to behave a little bit differently how it looks at the moment. So for this, I usually use this very nice adjustment brush tool, where I select this region of the mirror which I would like to behave a little bit differently. And in other shots you will as well see that I use this brush tool to put some highlights on underexposed areas. And yeah, if you click on this or you check in this small checkbox, you can see where you applied this brush tool. And for this brush you can set independently some other settings. Yeah, and this is what we are going to do here. I go a little bit even to the colder direction, and will remove a little bit of the tint from this area, and meanwhile I will boost the inner part with some extra exposure, and I will give some extra contrast. Yeah, meanwhile all the bokeh bubbles seem to be too much highlighted for me, so I go down a little bit with the highlights. I go down a little bit with the shadow, just to have a kind of smoother transition, and I go down a little bit with the whites as well. Yeah, the blacks will remain the same, and maybe I go down a little bit as well with the clarity slider, and here I will show you how to create a little bit more contrast with the dehaze. Okay, and I want the colors to be as well a little bit more vivid. Yeah, I think, yeah, maybe a little bit more exposure. Yeah, I think I'm pretty much satisfied with the result, and that's it. Okay, and one last thing to check the before and after. So this was the original image, and this is the image which we edited. So that was it. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, hit the like button. If you have any questions or any suggestions, just leave a comment down below and subscribe for my channel. See you soon.